Hello, and you are listening to the Book Was Better podcast, the podcast where we talk about the book of the film. I'm Luke.
I'm Zach.
And this week we're talking about Noah.
Hey you, put down the popcorn and turn on the light. It's gonna be alright, my friend. In the end, take my hand and trust me, the book was better.
Holy crap. Hello, Zach. First time on the show. What a treat.
Yes.
Yes. Now we
For
had
both of us.
for both. I know. Well, this is pretty good. As in, normally I have something we're going to learn today on this biblical story. Women, kind of a burden.
Yeah.
So it's kind of nice to be doing a biblical story and just kind of broing out a bit.
Well, you can just talk the truth about women.
That's right, yeah, because it's all in there in black and white in the Bible. I don't know why people continue to argue about it, because it's there.
The Bible is 100% correct.
It is absolutely real.
All the time.
This is a very convincing story about Noah and his ark. And I'm actually really looking forward to digging into it, because we had your partner Paris last week.
Yeah.
She set the bar. How did you think she did?
She did pretty well.
Yeah,
I
out of
think.
10?
Yeah, out of 10. Probably like 10,
Yeah.
because she's listening.
All right.
But if Paris was to block her ears for a second, like 3, maybe.
Yeah, okay. So
2.
not too hard to beat that. We'll have the audience vote anyway, and then
Yeah.
one of you will be cast into the river,
Yeah.
and the other one will continue. So, this is a biblical story. This is very much the first time we've done one of these, based on Darren Aronofsky's adaptation last year, Noah, starring wonderful Australian actor, Australian via New Zealand actor, Russell Bloody Crowe.
Yes,
Not-
Russell Bloody Crowe.
Not quite as good as Sam Worthington, but definitely has the chops to be a crazy bearded man on a mission, who basically takes no shit in this
Basically
film.
plays himself.
Yeah, pretty much. I think it's one of those things where it could be that Bowfinger situation where he didn't know he was actually making a film, and they
Right.
just said, "Hey Russ, we got this building project out in the forest. You want to come and help us? You can be in charge."
It's like, bloody oath I do.
Bloody oath, mate, I'll give it my fucking 40, 50 foot of grunt. All the grunt. I'll give it all the grunt I got. That's a obscure reference to his band. Before we start this, though, who's your favourite biblical character? You must have a... I mean, I know that's putting you on the spot. There's so many to choose from.
It's probably Evan from Evan Almighty.
Steve. That's Steve Carell or Jim Carrey?
Steve Carell.
Steve Carell.
I think it's what Noah was based on,
Yeah.
if I'm correct.
We might have to do that one at some point and kind of see how they compare. think I like the Whore of Babylon.
Who doesn't love a good
Yeah.
whore?
Especially Babylon.
I honestly have no idea what she did.
I like that. Maybe she wrote a beast.
Like a giant beast.
Yeah, many eyes. The Suzanne yelling hello in the background. I need one of those on-air lights, obviously, outside this room. Very unprofessional. I actually was quite intrigued by this, because when you start to read about the book and the story and people reacting to the movie through Amazon reviews and things, and we'll get to those at the end, there are people, like grown, adult, rational, supposedly people, who believe that the Noah's Ark story is literal. So they're going like, oh, yeah, I don't know, this movie took a lot of liberties. I mean, we know from history and geology that when the flood happened, this actually happened. And you're like, what?
Yeah. I work with a woman who's very religious, and she was very angry about the stone giants.
Yep, so that comes up. So people are really wondering about the veracity of this thing, which is kind of crazy to me. That feels like being upset about the labour force in Santa's workshop and going, well, we know that they actually have conveyor belts in there. And, it seems like an odd thing. Now, we will forewarn people. I'm not a religious person. I think it's all a lot of gubbins. But, yeah, there's that weird thing about belief, isn't there? There's also that, I know some wonderful people that work in religion who do not believe that these stories are literal, really happened. They see them as creation myths and stuff. So that's something. So I realise it's probably like a fundamental minority that really go, no, this happened. There was actually a Noah's Ark and he got all these animals, which I think is crazy. Like, I've said that to a co-worker of mine who believes in this story. You know, just get me a giraffe.
Yeah. That's the thing that kind of proves that it's not real.
Yeah, just get me one giraffe. You can use the internet. You can call the zoo. You can do all these things that Noah did not have.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just going to walk here.
I just want one giraffe. That's it. And I haven't seen the giraffe yet. A friend said to me, like, it's not cool to tell people they can't believe in certain things. How do you feel about that?
I fully respect people's beliefs. Like, I might not believe it, but I think belief in itself is a good thing. But what you believe in can be kind of questionable.
Look, I think you're right. But is there a line? Like, what's the line? Like, if someone believes in something just really absolutely crazy.
I think the line is Scientology.
But that's just as crazy, though, right? Like, that story's no less crazy than the, like, Noah story.
Yeah.
And I get it. Like, if a little old lady lives out in a shack in the woods and believes that all this stuff happened, like, what's the harm in that?
Yeah.
You know? And it makes her feel better and everything. But then I worry when that belief gets used and, like, children are told it.
Yeah, that's when it gets a bit
And then,
weird.
Other people sort of grow up believing it and they don't question it, or they're told there's really dire consequences if they question it.
Yeah. I always thought it's weird that, like, let's say Stan Lee was born 2,000 years ago.
Which probably isn't far off the mark,
No.
yes?
And he wrote Spider-Man then.
Yeah.
And then the guy who wrote the Bible,
Yes.
I mean, God,
Yep.
like, he didn't write it. And all we had was Stan Lee's Spider-Man.
Yes.
Then would that be what people follow now?
Maybe. That's what I don't get. Is like all this stuff just comes from a book. A book which we know is written by men. And we also know that men, statistically, historically, are like the worst people in the world ever.
Oh, yeah.
So, like,
we are the worst.
why would you believe anything that, like, as a man, wouldn't you just say anything in order to, like, get ahead?
Yeah, I would.
So, I don't know. It's sort of weird. But then, look at the other side. Devil's advocate. What if someone goes, hey, my kids believe in this stuff and it makes them confident, it makes them better people, they're strong, they're smart, they're studious, they do nothing wrong, they're really great, and you spreading your beliefs and saying, oh no, it's all gubbins, makes them feel insecure and neurotic, and then they throw themselves off a cliff or something, and then I've done the wrong thing.
Yeah.
So
It's such a weird topic.
it is. It's such a heady topic. Luckily, we have Mark Morris, author of original works such as The Secret of Anatomy, Mr. Badface, Horror Hospital, and Uglyman here to unravel it all. Because obviously these are big questions that you and I are having a lot of difficulty sort of really unraveling. And maybe by the end of it, we'll have a better appreciation of how this could have happened. How a man could have built a big boat full of animals and didn't save the human race. He was like...
Oh no, he let them die.
Yeah. He really does.
Yeah.
That's the thing I got most out of this is Noah is a prick.
Oh yeah, he's like the most horrible person.
Which is dead on casting, really, with Russell Crowe.
But I kind of feel for him.
When he threw that mobile phone at his wife.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, when all she was trying to do was bring a parrot inside. Terrible. Look, this guy also wrote novelizations such as Dead Island, based on the action role-playing survival horror video game and centered on surviving a zombie-infested island. And has dabbled in Doctor Who's adaptations, including Plague of the Daleks, which is an audio play, and Jago and Lightfoot Series 2, The Necropolis Express, which is also an audio play. So he's your go-to guy.
Yeah.
For all the big questions. So let's get into this book. Let's start at the very beginning and let's find out what this is all about. The ancient stone shrine set atop a hill was exposed to both the stars and the wind.
Sitting cross-legged on the ground, close to a small fire, a 13-year-old boy, gangly, lean, and dark-haired, gazed with rapt attention at a middle-aged man standing at the edge of the fire's glow.
The man was dressed in simple linens, and the soft orange light lapped at his bearded features, transforming his face to a mask of bronze, albeit one that wore an expression both wise and kind.
A small wooden box rested on the ground next to them.
The man was Lamech, the boy his son Noah. Jumping the gun.
For a while now, Lamech?
Lamech? Yeah, I don't know.
Had been hinting that Noah would soon be old enough to claim his birthright, and it seemed that the time had come.
This is where he's going to open this box, he's going to inherit his father's racy magazines. This is which were all.
I remember when it happened to me.
Yeah, these ones were engraved on stone.
Nice.
Very difficult to take into the toilet with you.
Yeah.
But quite.
But worth the struggle.
Well, they stood up to abuse. Noah was nervous. He couldn't deny that, but he was excited too. He trusted and loved his father. Like many boys, he believed incontrovertibly not only that his father was right in every decision he made and that he always spoke the truth, but also that he was indestructible. So, yeah, basically we've got this setup where this kid, this is what I'm talking about, he would believe any old bullshit that his father told him. So his father could say, the world is made of pizza, it's presided over by a giant turtle, and he would be like, okay, Dad,
Be like,
fine.
where's the pepperoni?
Yeah,
That's where I'm gonna live when I'm older.
Oh, Pepperoni Mountain by the River of Cheese. And it turns out his birthright is actually a snakeskin.
Yes. Yes, it is. Why? I don't know. It's weird. The Creator made Adam in his image, then placed the world in his care, he said. This is the path we follow, Noah. This is your work now, your responsibility. May you walk alongside the Creator in righteousness. Noah's eyes focused on the tip of his father's pointing finger. Like a snake's forked tongue, the reptile skin began to flicker across the gap. He braced himself, clenching his fist tightly, wondering what the living skin would feel like against his flesh.
So we can assume this is the skin of the Satan snake, right?
Satan's foreskin?
Yes. It's like the family prophylactic, which
Yeah.
is being handed down. Because they used to make it out of pig skins. Why not a snake skin?
I mean, obviously it's faulty because they keep giving it to their sons.
That's true.
So you should probably get a new one.
It's got a hole at each end.
Yeah.
So
It's the big mistake.
very big problem. Not figuring it out. It's part of the problem, really. And then some men show up. We've already worked out they're the worst people in the world. And I got a feeling they're not going to take kindly to this little snakeskin ceremony. Crouching in the shadows, peering out from behind the rock, he watched as a score of what he knew to be miners, their skin filthy and their clothes torn and bedraggled, crested the hilltop, flanked by 8 armor-clad warlords. Behind them in the distance rose the slender, spire-like skyscrapers of a city, among which smokestacks belched out fire and plumes of choking, poisonous smoke. Did you know there was cities in the Bible?
I did not. That was a revelation for me.
With skyscrapers?
I assumed it was mostly mud huts.
Yeah, I think what actually, this happened just a few thousand years ago, and the city was bedrock, and the miners were using dinosaurs as construction vehicles, and they must have all just clocked off and slid down the back and off the end of the tail in order to be here. And they're led by a giant who's a descendant of Cain. How's your Bible history with Cain and
Abel?
Cain and Abel? It sounds like a buddy cop show.
Cain and Abel, two dirty cops.
This descendant of Cain beats up Noah's dad and nicks his bloody snakeskin.
What a prick.
And then,
without hesitation, the huge warrior pulled an axe from the belt around his waist, swung it round and smashed it down on Lamech's skull. If he had been able to draw the breath to do so, Noah would have screamed. His entire being blazed with horror and hatred and disbelief. But he could only gape as Tubal Cain kicked his father's body aside and roared, "This land is ours. Now dig."
miners gotta mine. And this brutal beginning, this innocent family ceremony destroyed by a skull splitting from a stranger, is really our brutal introduction to, hey, welcome to the Bible.
Yes.
And it gets worse. Like, this book is way more full on than the film. Would you agree? In terms of the
Bible or just this particular book?
this particular book, I don't know if it's more full on more full on than the actual Bible that it's based upon. Because, like, yes, granted, this is a film based on a book based on a film based on a book.
Yes.
6 degrees.
Based on what could be actual events.
Could be based on a true story. That's what we're going to have to find out. And speaking of Bible, an actual Bible verse appears in here. Genesis 6:5-6. You can tell I don't read scripture out loud. The Creator saw that man was completely sinful in the world. Their deepest thoughts were nothing but evil. And he regretted that he had made man, and it grieved him at his heart. So fickle, like, makes it and then regrets it almost instantly and wants to undo the whole thing. And speaking of creation, why did God stop creating things? Like, why don't we suddenly hear on the news, oh, there's new lizard donkeys, or...
I think he probably kept going after humans. That's when he made the platypus.
Yeah.
And then he was like, I gotta stop. It's
Like,
like, what the fuck am I doing?
I'm never going to top that one. But don't you feel he's like a band that released like one good album and then he just quit? It's like if you're a creator and you're going to call yourself a creator, you have to keep creating.
Keep going.
It's like he did one art exhibition and then went, I'm going to be a recluse.
I'm the best.
Yeah, he's like that bloody Harper Lee or something. He writes one book and then buggers off. And it's like, oh, no, I'm one of the greatest writers. Well, why don't you come out, get on your typewriter and prove it? Why don't we wake up and go, oh, God's created this today. Oh, that's awesome.
Bible.
Well done, God. Oh, yes, I can jump on these springy mushrooms all the way to work.
That's probably when aliens come. That's when we know God has been like, well, time to make something else.
He could have been just busy on other planets, that's true.
Yeah.
And then Noah transforms.
In a little over a quarter of a century, the gangly, wide-eyed boy that Noah had once been had become a man, with the weight of the world on his shoulders.
Which is Atlas, right? Not Noah. So already confusing the mythology. But he does turn into Russell fucking Crowe, mate. And this is where Noah is like gonna get down to business. He's got 2 boys of his own, 2 lads. Russell Crowe likes to fuck.
Yeah.
That's clear. Not using the snake skin. He's got a 9-year-old called Shem and a 6-year-old called Ham.
Ham. That's my favourite name.
Yeah, don't name a kid when you're hungry is the lesson there. Should call him Ham. And they see a scaly hound. Like, there's a CGI dog.
Yeah.
Sort of like half lizard
It's weird.
kind of thing.
I mean, it must have died. It didn't get on the ark, obviously.
No.
Because I haven't seen one.
No, I haven't at all. And it's basically a sign that the evil men are coming. So Russ covers them all with like this cloak of camouflage +5 so that nobody can see them. And then this happens.
The man standing between the narrowing walls of the canyon was a desert poacher. Was a desert poacher. A desperate scavenger. He was filthy and savage looking, his black eyes blazing from a skull-like face, his filthy matted clothes little more than a collection of animal skins that had been stitched together.
So we got a scaly hound, then we got this guy. I think this is set on Tatooine.
Oh, yeah.
A long time ago.
Yeah.
In a galaxy far, far away.
It would make it a more interesting book.
I think so.
/ movie.
These guys are pretty much Tusken Raiders. And also, I didn't know this. It shows how little attention I paid in Sunday school. I wasn't at Sunday school. That's probably why.
It's probably a mistake.
But Noah is a ninja.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
For an orphan who grew up by himself, he's learned a lot of skills.
Oh, yeah. Releasing blood-curdling cries, the men leapt towards Noah, weapons raised. Noah's reaction, however, was shockingly fast. Exploding into action, he whipped his knife from his belt, ducked under the clumsy thrust of the spear from the poacher who had laughed at him earlier, and sprang forward, slashing the man's throat. As the man fell, blood spraying in an arc from his neck, that's foreshadowing for the arc later on, Noah pivoted and grabbed his spear before it could slip from his fingers. He is a cold-blooded murderer in this book.
And he's good at it as well.
Yeah, so
he's done it before.
There's no way these are the first guys. And he murders 2 of them. And then the 3rd guy, looking totally fucked here.
The man's eyes, clouded with pain, swiveled to look at him. His mouth moved. "Please," he whispered, "have mercy. As you had mercy for that poor creature..." Wait, I should do an Australian accent.
Yeah.
"As you had mercy for that poor creature," muttered Noah. Despite the pain of his injury, confusion and indignation passed across the man's face. "That is nothing but an animal." "As are you," said Noah. "Man has to eat," the poacher whispered. Noah's face darkened. "Man has a choice. To destroy creation or tend to it. To live and work alongside it in peace."
I've heard of meat is murder, but being murdered for eating meat. You know that God did create those flesh-tearing incisors that this guy has in his gob, Noah. You would think it was part of God's plan that we would eat meat because we've been given all the equipment to eat meat. But Noah is like, nah, you eat meat, I am going to fuck you up.
It's also kind of hypocritical to be like, to destroy creation after he's just brutally murdered 3 people.
He, Yeah, like, you actually feel for the poacher. You think, well, yeah, this guy's, like, dirty, he's hungry. You'd think Noah would be like, oh, friend, come eat with us.
Yeah.
Instead, he's just like, you are dead.
Yeah, he doesn't even... Does he kill that guy?
Probably, yeah.
Does he just leave him with his legs, like, shattered all over the place?
That seems to be his MO. Does that to a lady later. So Noah and his kids burn the dog in an elaborate funeral. Not the people. The people, yeah.
It's like a Jedi funeral.
Pretty much.
Again, Tatooine.
A pyre.
We're on Tatooine. That's
Has to be. But they don't eat it, of course. Do men live in the city? Ham asked fearfully. Like the ones who wanted to kill and eat the beast. Ham, by the way, is Percy Jackson. Don't notice?
Was he?
Yeah.
I did not notice.
Noah nodded. Yes, there are many men. So many. Soon they will be everywhere. Ham's eyes widened in fear. What should we do, Father? Shem asked. Noah sighed. His gaze followed the threads of smoke as they rose toward the mute heavens. Finally, he muttered, we will pray. Totally proactive solution.
Yeah.
Right there. That's problem solving.
Yeah. I mean, just say it to the sky and it'll probably be done.
It will come true. And then back at the camp, we meet Noah's wife, who has his third son, the baby... How do we pronounce this one?
Japheth?
Japheth. But my real question, when we get to meet a female character, which, gets asked many a time in this podcast, is she hot?
Oh, I wondered it. As soon as I heard he had children, I was like, is she a MILF?
Bring her out, parade her around for the audience. Let's see how Noah did.
The woman... Namer?
Namer? I don't know.
The woman, Namer, was around 30 years old. She was tired and thin, ground down by life, but still breathtakingly beautiful. Her pale eyes were almost cat-like, her hair as black and glossy as a raven's wing.
Go Noah. I think it's a bit generous to say that Jennifer Connelly's around 30 years old.
Yeah.
But she's very beautiful.
I mean, she's quite a stunning lady.
She is. She's part cat, part raven.
Keeps trying to kill herself.
That's right. And Noah starts having dreams and visions of it raining floods of blood. It was an underwater reef, a gnarled precipice of rock and coral, like a vast mountain beneath the sea. He planted his feet upon it and found himself looking down into a huge pit where the whole of humanity lay dead and rotting. Millions upon millions of corpses stretching as far as the eye could see. So God goes completely Freddy Krueger on Noah, giving him these... incredibly bad nightmares. Is the film as graphic as that?
When you see the dead people?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
And
I mean, they don't really pay as much attention to the people. If you look in the background, you can see them in the water.
And my other question was, because I actually, when I watched the film last night, I only watched the last half, because I'd seen the first half, probably end of last year. And I couldn't remember... Is God depicted in the film as a child, or am I thinking of a different film?
No, you don't see God at all. The only time you see God is like...
Oh, you know what I'm thinking of? Exodus, Gods and Kings.
Ah, okay.
That's got the... Yeah, God
Does that have Russell Crowe in it?
God is a child. It's got Edjo, which is...
Close enough.
Just as good, almost.
Probably better.
Sort of like a little Russ light.
Yeah.
Still a bit potatoey.
It's like 40 foot of grunt.
Yeah, well, like 4 foot of grunt. Edjo's only a little bugger. So yeah, because Noah had a bad dream, he's going to uproot his entire family and make them go on an arduous trek into the mountains with a newborn infant to search for his grandfather, who may or may not be alive.
A worthy task.
Yeah. But look, great thing for the kids though. You think, don't drag your kids out on this crazy task because of a dream you had. But listen to some of these scenic treats for the kids.
The smoke from the ruins was drifting toward them, making them cough when they saw the bodies. They were strewn and sprawled amongst the wreckage as though they were nothing but items of debris themselves, the remains of a ragtag community of malnourished men, women, and children, all of whom had been slashed and hacked to death.
And they discover a small survivor girl, except the girl had a severe belly wound. She had been slashed with a sharp blade which had opened her up from hip to hip. It was only because she was lying on her back that her innards had not spilled out through the slit. Welcome to the... Look, I think of Noah's Ark. I think of, stop motion animation specials.
Yeah.
I think of,
I always thought of him as a really happy, nice guy.
Yeah, picture books with, bright animals and stuff. I never saw the innards and the slit.
No.
Her name is Isla. Name's Isla. And they decide to take her along just in case she grows up to be Emma Watson. Spoilers. She does. And men arrive, so the Noah posse escape into this wretched black land covered in skeletons where even these evil men with their own wretched black hearts fear to go.
They had been walking for less than an hour, trying to ignore the rows of hanging skeletons, when the sun began to sink toward the horizon, the late afternoon sky deepening toward dusk.
Ignore the skeletons, kids. Let's play I Spy. I Spy with more life, something beginning with S. But what they do see is a watcher, and you mentioned this before. These are the stone giants, which that was the problem that a lot of religious people had with the film.
Yeah.
Because you got this quite believable story.
Yeah, of course.
And then you throw these guys in.
Yeah. The creature was easily as tall as 3 men and appeared to be formed of cracked, dry clay and rock. It seemed ageless and sexless. It features malformed, unfinished, its eyes burning like glowing black coals in deep sockets. Most terrifying of all, it had 6 fully functioning arms, 3 sprouting from each side of its massive body.
Rock Lords, the greatest heroes of them all! I think it's fantastic. It actually makes a lot of sense when you think about how the Ark would have been built. Rock Lords has to have been. And Noah tries to ninja one of them, but he totally eats shit. And when he wakes up, his family is in a pit with 30 rock men who are totally having a chat like they're the trees from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Very much that
That's
same...
what they reminded me of.
Yeah, same sort of personality there. He stinks of mankind, the Watcher grunted, and it made a dismissive gesture with one of its 6 arms. Abominations, Og! You should have killed them. They are trespassers and they must die. Og.
What a great name.
Very creative.
Simple, gets the point across.
He's my favourite character in this film, after Noah. And Noah's basically like, I came to see my grandpappy, and by the way, the creator sent me, lol. And the rock guys are like, yeah, right. So they have to stew in this pit a little bit longer, and they use this time to examine Isla's wounds.
Gently removing Shem's protective arm from around Isla's upper body.
Or should we say Isla?
I don't
like
what
the great
did you say?
Isla.
Did you say Isla?
It's probably Isla, right? It's only one L. Like the great Isla Fisher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes... She's Australian as well.
She is. She's from Perth.
We should just go with the Australian theme.
Yeah.
Isla's upper body. She lifted Isla's bandages with delicate fingers and carefully examined the wound beneath. How is it? Noah asked. Nama frowned. Ugly and deep. I'm afraid her womanhood is gone. She will never bear children. But the damage is contained. If she survives the fever, I think she will live.
Meanwhile, some savage out there has a unique new purse.
some filthy bugger.
This like pink leathery thing under his arm. What do you think? That looks fantastic.
And it smells weird. Jerry. Get out of here, Jerry. We hate you.
Og decides to bust the Noahs out of the pokey, and they continue their journey. And Og takes this time to give them his backstory.
Noah, listening to the story along with the rest of his family, gasped. All at once, he could see in his mind precisely what Og was telling him. The pictures that formed were so vivid, it was as though the Watcher was sharing his memories.
It's almost like watching a flashback montage in a film. And these Watchers, so they are fallen angels, right?
Yes.
They were cast out of heaven for...
They leave to help. They decide that humanity needs help. So they disobey God's orders.
So they want to help Adam and Eve?
Yeah. They want to teach the humans what they know.
Yeah.
So they ditch God. They're like, fuck you, buddy. Jump out of the clouds. Fall down. But while they're falling, God's like, nah, none of this shit. Takes their astral bodies away. And then just smashes them into the ground.
They just become rocks. They were once these beautiful life things, and now they're just a bunch of pebbles. And then there's more walking than Lord of the Rings, more camping than Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, until finally they find their granddad, half awake Anthony Hopkins. Methuselah smiled at Shem. His face was all wrinkles, yet he was so old that in an odd way he seemed almost ageless. Sexless too, as if he had passed beyond such petty concerns. I think that's a polite way of saying that his wrinkled junk was indistinguishable from all the other wrinkles.
They had skyscrapers in the Bible, but not Viagra.
Hang on a minute though. This is a bit of a concern.
Slowly and carefully, as if the boy were the most fragile and precious artifact in the world, Methuselah lowered Shem's head into his lap.
Can we trust this guy?
No.
Living out in the mountain? And Noah, drinks Grandpa Cosby's tea and starts totally tripping balls. And then the floating bodies around him began to split open, silently and bloodlessly, and from each emerged an animal. Within seconds, animals of every kind imaginable, all the animals of the world, were breaking through the bodies of humanity and kicking upward, swimming toward the surface, as though showing him the way. I kind of liked the ambiguity of the film in these earlier stages.
Oh, yeah.
Noah, everything that he thinks God is telling him is happening to him either when he's drunk something weird or when he's asleep. So you are kind of questioning...
Yeah. Is he just nuts?
Yeah. And it certainly gets more and more so like that as it continues. But then there are some big supernatural things that happen, which kind of suggest, this
they don't happen till afterwards.
Yeah.
So, he could just be a crazy guy who happens to fall across a miracle or two.
He's definitely a crazy guy. And you notice that his wife and his young kids, who travelled all this way, don't even get to meet their grandfather. They have to sit at the bottom of the mountain. And then Noah comes down and basically goes, look, I've reached the conclusion a cleansing flood is coming, and he's going to build an ark to save the innocent. Not people, animals, who, I will add, also kill and eat each other to survive. But let's not worry about those little details, Noah.
Yeah.
And the other Watchers arrive to drag away Og, who it turns out is essentially the Jar Jar Binks of their clan. Which is good, because every time I read the word Noah, I think of Captain Tarples going, Noah again, Jar Jar. You said going to the bosses this time. But Noah has planted a magic Eden seed that Anthony Hopkins gave him, and stuff starts happening.
And then, on both sides of the many rivulets, now slicing their way through cracks in the parched earth, he was astonished to see green shoots start to push their way up through the soil. Grass, he thought, but then the grass began to grow, to become lush, to evolve into plants. Flowers.
I've, people say in a derogatory way it's about as exciting as watching grass grow.
Yeah.
But this was actually pretty I enjoyed watching it.
If grass was like this, I would watch it all the time.
But this is the supernatural thing, isn't it? This sort of goes, okay, something's happening, something's up.
Yeah.
And the Rock Lord guys were supernatural too.
Yeah. Their mouths kind of drop open. They're like,
what?
Water.
And then suddenly we jump ahead again. Years pass, and the forest that Noah grew is actually the source of the wood for the ark building. See? It's all feasible. It all makes perfect logical sense. 2 doves are drawn to their new home, and then we realise this is the relief, because he doesn't actually have to go out and hunt all these animals himself.
No.
They're all going to just turn up. I've got 2 questions, though, about how all this works. Is Isla legal yet, and is she hot?
She was around 18.
Check.
Golden-limbed, beautiful, and she was laughing with joy as she ran.
Do you reckon it would be bad for a novelizationist to just go, and she looked exactly like Emma Watson? Because, that's a point of reference. We have similes and metaphors and stuff anyway. Why not just say it?
Yeah. I think it would be, worse if he said, she looked like shit, like Emma Watson.
Yeah. She looked like Emma Watson, but a shittier version.
She looked like how Hermione should have looked, not how she did look.
Shem is right into all this, except his hands caressed her knees, her thighs, then they moved higher. Isla, her head back and her eyes closed, moaned and trembled, and then she winced. Shem, wait! Shem paused, clearly frustrated but concerned for Isla. She tugged on the shoulder of his shirt, and he inched up until they were face to face again. She kissed him deeply, fiercely. Her voice was breathless, urgent. Please, I want to, but I can't. Her eyes flickered away from his. It still hurts? He asked gently. She gave a quick nod, and her eyes filled with tears. Nama says it always will, she said. I'm sorry. Whew. Blue balls that Shem has.
Sex is like, I mean, I didn't realize this the first time I watched the movie or read the book, but there's a lot to do with sex in here.
Is the book sexier than the
Yeah, it's a bit
film?
more, they go into a bit more detail. But like later on, Ham defines being a man as having sex. Like he's not a man unless he has sex.
Yeah.
Which is weird. And then there's that like little almost sex scene that kind of comes out of nowhere in the movie. And then later on, like she just wants it real bad. And then again, that just comes out of nowhere.
Well, it's kind of what because this is the point where I stopped watching initially. And yeah, it does actually really become about this battle about Ham and Shem.
Yeah, because Ham totally wants Emma Watson.
Yeah, and about the wives.
Yeah.
Like this idea of all these animals have a partner. Where's our partner?
Yeah.
And that really does become the focus of
It's pretty bad.
the book,
I mean, like,
the movie from now on.
because the only concern for women is, can they have children? And if they can't, are they worth it? Which is like a terrible thing.
And what's wrong with like a bachelor life on a boat?
Yeah, exactly. It'd be fun.
It would be amazing.
There's sheep. Whatever.
Yeah, any port in a storm. And yeah, I'd often wondered how Noah was able to build this giant ark, and now I know that he had all these super strong rock people who did most of the heavy lifting for him.
He was watching his father and the Watchers
Ironic.
working on the vast rectangular ark, just as he had watched them every day for as long as he could remember. They swarmed over its wooden surface, hammering and planning and sawing and fixing the wood into place. While in the forest, other Watchers chopped down trees and cut and trimmed the wood and treated it with sticky, brown, smelly stuff that his father had warned him to keep away from.
Yeah, never referenced again. I don't know.
No, it's just giant piles of shit.
Just all the animal shit had to be put to use somewhere. Then all the birds arrive, and I don't mean the ladies, I mean actual birds. And yet here they were, the birds, just as his father had promised, as they swooped and circled toward the ark in a riot of patterns and colours and designs. Japheth recognized songbirds and seabirds and birds of prey, and there were many birds that he didn't recognize, exotic, brightly plumed ones from far, far away, so far that perhaps even his mother and father hadn't heard of them. I feel like you could fill an ocean with things his mother and father hadn't heard of, considering they're like this poor hillbilly couple that live in a pile of their own shit.
They're like hippies. They're like the hippies of this world.
And I was thinking, like, how are they going to feed all these animals? And of course they're not. They are drugging them all and putting them to sleep, probably with Grandpa Cosby's tea, for the entire trip. Because if you're asleep, you don't need to eat.
No, they're all hibernating.
That's right. Because you and I, we would go to sleep at night. Not together, I'm talking about just in general.
If you wanted.
Well, hey. Okay. Thank you for listening. We're going to cut this off early. Yeah, but you go to sleep and you wake up. You didn't need to eat in that time.
Yeah.
So if you go to sleep for, this journey takes about 12 years, that's fine. As long as you don't wake up.
Yeah. I never even thought of that. Like, obviously I knew the story of Noah.
Yeah.
But I never thought about, what are they eating? Are they asleep? Have they been roofied? It's like...
Definitely roofied. Ham and Japheth are really bummed, like we said, that they do not have hot dates for the coming apocalypse. But don't be glum, chums, because here comes...
Noah, Naima, and Ham turned. At the edge of the clearing, emerging from the trees, was a moving carpet of reptiles, snakes, crocodiles, turtles, and lizards, of all shapes, sizes, and colours, were slithering and ambling and scuttling towards them.
I'm seriously hanging out for the crazy monkeys going apeshit. I just think that's where the comedy is going to take place. And I actually haven't seen Evan Almighty, but my guess is that if I wanted some crazy animal antics on a boat, maybe that's the better film than this one.
That's probably one of the few movies that does have animals, antics, and a boat.
Yeah, because there's that film, The Boat That Rocked, but that's like about a radio station and doesn't have apes and stuff on it.
No.
And then there's like movies like Congo, which have a lot of apes, and maybe a boat briefly.
There is a new movie. This is a bit off topic.
Okay.
But do you like Home Alone?
Yeah.
They've essentially remade Home Alone, but instead of leaving Macaulay Culkin at home, they've left the puppy. and the
my God.
puppy has to stop burglars from ruining Christmas.
Is it part of the Home Alone
I have no idea.
universe? But is it a Christmas thing?
It's a Christmas movie.
Fuck, I wonder if there's a novelization. Maybe that's a novelization challenge. Has it got a cool name?
I think it's Home, Left at Home, or something like that. It's got Home in the title.
Home, okay. This
Sorry,
Christmas?
that went off topic.
No, go off topic. God. What are we're talking about Noah.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah. I'm going to look that up. I need to find some Christmas stuff for December. So that sounds pretty great. Because obviously after just bad-mouthing the Bible for 45 minutes, I'm not very excited about Christmas, which is true. I am. I love Christmas. So look, Ham and Japheth go to find themselves some fine-ass honeys to hook up with. But they are attacked by a gross beardy man, who is then attacked and killed by an even grosser beardy man. I think Qui-Gon. Back to episode 1, which is like my Genesis. There's always a bigger, gross beardy man.
Yeah, that's true. Ham looked at the blood dripping from the head of the weapon and wondered if he was next. The man was old, his long hair and his long forked beard were grey and matted. Yet this did not detract from his aura of savage power. He glared down at Ham, and then he grinned. Japheth, standing behind Ham, wheeled and ran away, shrieking, "Father! Father!" As he did, Ham noticed that the man wore a long but shriveled reptile skin wrapped around his shoulders.
It's the Kane guy, the nasty old skin knicker, Tubal, I'm butchering all these names. I know that like the Walrus guy in the cantina is Ponda Baba. I know the Hammerhead guys, Momorna Don. These Bible names though.
Names.
Tubal Cain, I don't know. He's Ray Winston.
Yeah.
Ray Orwell, slay your monster. Great in Beowulf. With Anthony Hopkins was in that as well.
This is basically just a retelling of Beowulf.
Yes. No one loses an arm in this, though. That would have been cool. Tubal Cain takes Ham back to Noah for some really wicked taunting.
Tubal Cain's eyes narrowed. "We've met before. I would remember." "I have never forgotten," Noah said. "Oh, wait. I've never whatever.
I've never forgotten.
Noah said, still in the same controlled voice.
I am the son of Lamech. And as a child, I watched as, like a coward, you slaughtered him. An unarmed man, a holy man. And as a man, I watched as you raped the world."
Tubal Cain regarded Noah steadily, thoughtfully. He fingered the snakeskin draped over his shoulders and smiled.
Just fingered the snakeskin, thinking about how he raped the world. It's like, "Take that, you dirty river. How'd you like that, you dirty crevice?"
I don't think, in the movie, he doesn't accuse Tubal Cain of raping the world.
"I'm groping your mountains. I'm all up in your valley." Tubal Cain's gross. And he wants in on that sweet arc action. He wants to get on a boat and live the bachelor life, but the Watchers go, "Piss off!" And he retreats to gather an army. And then all the mammals show up at once, and here's a prankster. Here's the animal antics I was looking for.
Apes swung from trees, dropping onto the backs of larger animals when the trees ran out.
Crazy apes doing crazy shit. And look, the ark is ready to rock. Let's get this thing in the water and go on our animal boat adventure. Although Ham and Japheth are still missing wives. And as for Isla...
Sorry.
No, you go.
No, you go.
I'm talking way too much. You need to talk more. That's what I didn't say to you at the beginning, which I should say whenever there's a new guest, is don't be polite. Like, you've got to fight for your airtime, or otherwise I'm just going to read all these fucking notes. So don't be polite. Get in there.
All right. Since you
That's still too polite.
Her voice abruptly softened, and besides, why would the creator want a barren girl on his ark? Noah contemplated the question. He couldn't deny that it was a relevant one.
Yeah, she seems pretty useless.
Yeah.
Her womanhood has been cut out. It's been used as a purse. It's got
Jerry
stones and Jerry stones and keys and stuff in it. And
I hope something bad happens to Jerry. Maybe he'll drown. I don't know.
Could be. They might take him in at the last minute. I don't know. I just don't know why she's taken up a bed when you could bring in another otter or something like that.
Yeah.
Another skunk. Something useful.
I think Noah starts to get into that mindset later.
Yeah. Yes. absolutely right. We didn't talk about the fact as well, Zach, that, and this is a tangent, but you told me just before we started recording that you had a head injury not too long, like a couple of hours ago.
Yeah, I smashed my head open.
We're talking about a lot of people getting their skull smashed in this book, and you had first-hand experience of that.
Yeah, it was horrible. My hair's all, like, matted with blood. I was going to have a shower before I came, but I was like, nah, it's fine.
That's all right. So, if you're going to pass out or anything, just do give the signal.
The signal will be me just falling.
Yeah, just hit your head really hard on something. Make sure I'm at least have you in my peripheral vision, or I'm just going to keep reading. Yes, so Noah, he takes charge. He realizes that these horny kids are going to rub themselves red raw unless he gets them wives. So he goes down to Tubal Cain's camp to find wives for his son. Why he would go there, of all places, when he hates this guy who killed his father, I do not know.
Yeah.
Shows how slim pickings the ladies are around this area. He gets there. He does not like what he sees. The starving, desperate, filthy people were worse than rats and often twice as vicious, many of them watching him with beady, hostile eyes, many of them squatting shamelessly in their own filth. Sounds like a trip to Cannington.
Yeah. He saw the bodies of the dead lying sprawled in the street, left where they had fallen, many naked because their clothes had been stolen, some bearing terrible wounds. He saw a young woman being attacked and raped by 4 men, her screams for mercy going unanswered. He saw men fighting, children being beaten, a couple rotting openly on the mud-churned ground, in full view of anyone who happened by.
Yeah, you know what? Fuck these guys, thought Noah. This, again, way more full-on than the film, right?
Yeah.
I love the term rutting, though. I wish that was used more often in books.
I'm going to use it more in my dirty talk.
I'm just going to rut you like a...
Prepare for a good rutting.
I'm going to rut you in the filth. And then when he sees them rip apart a gazelle, it's all too much for Noah, who hightails it out of there with 0 wives for his horny sons.
Because the gang rape wasn't that bad. But when he saw a gazelle being killed, he'd had enough.
Yeah, he didn't help going to stop anyone, didn't use his ninja skills, just ran away. He's now decided that God wants him to move the animals to safety and then die along with the rest of humanity. And it's funny that only his wife sees reason. If only her husband would talk to her instead of bearing the burden alone and making decisions for them all with neither consultation nor explanation. She had suggested more than once that perhaps the creator's messages could be interpreted in several ways, but Noah had consistently refused to entertain the notion. So the only person making sense is Jennifer Connelly, but she's a woman, so nobody listens to her.
No, why would they? It's the Bible.
That's true. So Ham sets out to find his own wife, but my God, the pickings are tough.
Ham saw an old woman, her left eye socket a raw and empty crater bubbling with pus, crawling across the muddy ground on her hands and knees, muttering to herself. He saw a dead baby in a box. That's a terrible choice. Its body bloated and purple and smothered in flies. He saw a toothless woman with her legs wide open, beckoning to him desperately for the gloom of a tent that stank of raw sewage. He saw a naked toddler with stick limbs. What? A distant belly and a starved, skull-like face. It was scooping up human feces from the ground and cramming it into its mouth.
This is why the book... Spoilers, but this is why the book is better, because I was watching to see the toddler eating his own shit, and it didn't happen.
Nah.
And you just look at that lineup and you think, this is like the worst episode of Blind Date ever. I think I would go with the toothless woman out of all of those.
She does have no teeth.
That's true. And
plus, she's legs wide open, beckoning for him.
And, the baby is in a box, easy to transport, but it is covered in flies.
And it's dead.
Yeah.
And it's a baby.
Yeah. So finally he chooses a skinny girl who isn't eating quite as much human excrement as the others. My name is Nail, she said. Nail. She's the first Nail. The word was beautiful. He liked the feel of it in his mouth. I'm Ham. Abruptly she burst into tears. For a moment Ham was startled, dismayed, and then he realised that she was crying because of his kindness, because he was probably the first stranger who had shown her any affection for a very long time. I feel like she's crying because his name is Ham.
I feel like she's crying because she's just shoved human shit in her mouth.
Because it's her baby. And then Methuselah comes down from the mountain to use his old man magic to make Isla fertile.
She nodded, a little puzzled. Methuselah raised his arm and slowly extended his gnarled fingers towards her. The finger hovered over her belly without quite touching. Even so, Isla gave a little gasp. She could feel something inside her. Something that tickled. Something that felt warm. It was almost painful, and yet deliciously so.
This book just takes this really, really gross, weird turn.
Yeah, like describing an old man fingering Emma Watson.
Yeah, with his
That's kind of what it sounds like.
with his mind.
Yeah.
Okay, so the arc is finished, the sky is darkening, Isla wastes no time getting a fuck on. It's a scene which is far sexier than it is in the film, and then the first raindrop hits.
No, not a tear. The tear. The tear of the Creator. The first of many, weeping for the sins of man.
That's like a beautiful poem.
It is. It's quite dramatic.
Ham's would-be wife gets caught in a bear trap. More like a honey trap, am I right?
Yeah.
And it looks like she's going to be killed by advancing troops until our hero, Noah, shows up. And what does he do?
He leaves her.
He leaves her
He
to
just
die.
leaves her in the mud. It's horrible.
It is, like, in the, that's something where I think it's even worse in the film, because Noah, like,
Oh, yeah.
sweeps in, grabs Ham.
He has the chance, like, he could save her.
Absolutely.
There's enough time.
Pulls Ham aside, and then the troops all just trample
Yeah.
over her and crush her.
It's horrible.
And then Tubal-Cain's army attacks and gets in a huge battle with the Watchers. It all sounds very Lord of the Rings on paper. And as the Watchers are finally taken down, they transform.
It was the Watcher's true form. It was their brother as he had been before falling to the earthly plane. Transformed once again into an expanding pillar of pure energy, somewhere within the column of radiance, 6 great wings unfurled.
And this is a fantastic moment in the film and the book, because God has finally forgiven somebody for something.
Yeah.
This is the first bit of compassion that God has shown.
Plus, it looks really cool.
Yeah, that's true. And then water starts exploding out of the ground. There's more crazy biblical mayhem. Men and parts of men were sent spinning through the air in all directions. Soon there were dozens of geysers, hundreds, maybe more. This is where that song, It's Raining Parts of Men, Hallelujah, came from. And then this upset me. I find out through this adaptation that we were cheated out of an ape.
An ape flew across the room and landed on the ground, unharmed, only to be crushed to death beneath the body of a buffalo that landed on top of it.
So that's an ape that's not going to mate, which means that particular species of ape is gone. Just like
was
that.
Probably Homo, one of the other Homos.
Yes. And we know,
Like Homo sapiens.
we know how the Bible feels about that.
Sounded bad.
So Noah ninjas the last of the army dudes to death. Like he's at the door of the Ark, just fucking killing everybody. And the Ark sails off. But Tubal-Cain has managed to stow away on board, and he's hidden by Ham, who has this grudge against his father, which is not unreasonable considering that
No.
his fiancée was in a bear trap.
Yeah. Well, fiance. It was a woman he just met whose mouth was full of shit.
Yeah, but he made his intentions very clear. I think, like, okay, he didn't put a ring on it, but he said, you know, hey, come back to the Ark to be... Look,
Down for good times?
she was a woman. She knew that if he was asking her back to the Ark,
Yeah.
she was going to have a baby in her by sunset. Instead, she got her head kicked off by an advancing army.
Yeah.
He's angry at his father.
You'd see why.
That's, yeah. Imagine Meet the Parents remade in biblical times. Terrible. Speaking of Noah... Total prick that he is, he's also determined to ignore all cries of help on the journey.
They were a family group, or at least they seemed composed of the remnants of several families. There were a few men, a few women, and half a dozen children. The men were waving their arms, and the women holding out their hands in supplication, or gesturing at their thin and bedraggled children as they begged for mercy. All eyes were on Shem and Isla as and she could see the blend of desperation and hope on their faces. "We've got to help them," she said. Both of them jumped as a gruff voice spoke behind them. "No." They turned as one. Noah was standing there, a brooding presence, his face grim.
Again, more harsh than the film, which just has a bunch of distant people all climbing around a rock, getting waves thrown at them. But in this, it's starving children, people begging for help, begging for mercy, and Noah's like, "Fuck 'em!
Bloody earth.
Don't get one more boat!
Bugger off.
Bugger off, you bastards!" So, days at sea, they're amusing each other with more outlandish Bible stories. And Tubal Cain, I really like Ray Winstone in this. He's slowly eating all the animals.
He's not even, like, cooking them or killing them. He's just biting bits out of animals.
Their heads off and stuff, yeah. And he's not even, like, eating the full one. He'll just take a bite out of one.
And throws it aside.
Put it down. Yeah, he's like he's at Sizzler.
Yeah.
Like a kid at a Sizzler party. He just takes a bit of everything, tastes it, throws it back. And I began to think this is the real crux of the drama now, is when they get to land, it's kind of this race against the clock. Will there be any animals left? Will there only be shitty animals left? Bad taste, like, oh, it's a skunk. I'm not eating a fucking skunk.
Yeah.
But everything else,
Smells like shit.
Yeah, so you know how delicious like a pig is. Imagine what other delicious animals
missed out, 'cause he wouldn't have eaten
been.
the
Well, he
pig.
probably ate something even more delicious. That's the thing. We missed out. Because who knows what he had? It might have been chickens with 6 breasts.
Chickens made of pig.
Made of pig, yes. And Isla tells Noah that she is pregnant, thanks to the old man magic, and he reacts with typical Christian compassion. His eyes bulged with fury, his voice rose to a bellow. "How is this possible?" His arm rose, he held something in his hand, a stone pestle for crushing herbs. It was not a weapon as such, but it was hard and heavy, and would do a great deal of damage if smashed down on a human skull. Who wouldn't want to see Russell Crowe in a movie smash Emma Watson's skull as she begged for his mercy?
I was hanging out for it.
"I'm pregnant." Smash! No! Not anymore! But the rain subside, and so does Noah's anger, and he finally, regains his senses, and he reaches the only reasonable possible decision.
The words he spoke, however, sent a shudder of horror and outrage through all of them. "Should you bear a girl in the moment of her birth, I will cut her down."
He will murder the baby. So, the whole thing takes a turn.
That's the line in the movie where I kinda, what the fuck?
It
You
gets really dark from here, and he definitely is the villain of the piece. He just goes crazy. Like, the kids build a raft, and Mum helps them so that they can bugger off and have the baby in peace and not have it cut to ribbons by their father. And Noah finds the raft and just, like, all psycho face burns it in front of them.
he makes, like, a little explosive device.
Yeah.
And then, as they're about to get on it, they see him standing up there. And he's like, "Not on my bloody ship!" and just throws it, and the thing explodes.
"You're not getting away!" And so Ham leads Noah downstairs. And again, I can't blame him. It's an act of desperation. And he has Tubal Cain jump out from nowhere and try to shiv him, which leads to a big old battle in which, in the book at least, many species go extinct.
Tubal Cain had no such qualms. He stepped on smaller mammals as if they weren't there, deliberately so in a couple of cases. His teeth bared in a sadist smile. He even stabbed his knife into the neck of a tapir like a herbivore, killing it instantly.
That's not in the movie.
Nah. He's just like killing
they,
things for fun.
They just fight, but in this he's just like, I'm going to kill that thing, I'm going to kill this thing.
They kind of, like, they lure him out by killing an animal.
Take that, hippogriff. Take this, unicorn. And meanwhile, this is great George Lucas directing, where you've got multiple things happening at once in the climax. So they're fighting, and Emma Watson is giving birth. The second birth was easier. Isla bore down, and almost instantly a second squalling, blood-smeared scrap of humanity was sliding into the world. Beautiful thing, pregnancy. Naima scooped them up, one in each hand, and examined them. "So?" Shem asked anxiously. Naima's shoulders slumped. The colour drained from her face. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." Shem looked stunned. His mouth moved, but at first nothing emerged. Then he forced out a single rusty word. "Both?" Name looked distraught. Her eyes shone with tears which overspilled her lower lids, trickling down her cheeks. "Sisters," she whispered. Good God, I would rather give birth to snakes.
Yeah, at that point.
2 women. Awful. And they hit land, which interrupts everything. Like, they hit the big rock, and suddenly it's like, oh shit, what's happening? Noah celebrates this arrival at land by...
Quickly, Tubal-Cain's scarred face turned purple, and his eyes bulged alarmingly. His mouth opened wide, his tongue lolled, lol, and he started to make awful choking noises as he fought for breath. His huge arms flailed and his body bucked, trying to dislodge his foe, but Noah clung on for grim life, as a poisonous spider will cling to a larger prey once it has bitten it. Slowly, the whites of Tubal-Cain's eyes began to turn pink, and his pupils began to roll upward, into his head, as Noah throttled the life out of him.
Noah chokes a bitch, which was one of my favourite pages in my illustrated Noah's Ark as a child. Noah just murdering this guy, eyes bugging out like the end of Total Recall. And then Noah, despite being battered and bloodied, heads down, well actually he heads up to the top of the Ark to chop up the two crying babbies with his big old Rambo knife I noticed in the film.
Yeah.
And you think, oh shit, this is what it's all come to. But no, he can't do it. He breaks down and cries, and a dove returns with an olive branch. So...
That was a bit on the nose for me.
You thought so?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a bit like, olive branch could have been like any other branch.
That's right. It's a bit
Didn't have to be a dove.
a bit of a cliche, right? Oh, well, they can get
The movie was so... That's what ruined the movie for me.
Yeah, that was the bit. That's the suspension of disbelief. All shattered. At least they can have some martinis now, though, right?
Yeah.
And Ham pisses off, but everyone else are super happy campers. Quite literally, they are camping on this new landmass. And we've reached it. This is the ending. Noah looked around at his family, their faces glowing with firelight, because he'd set them all alight in their sleep. And then he looked up into the heavens. His voice became stronger, richer, more confident. He returned his gaze to them.
And so I say to you, be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the world.
Isla suddenly stiffened. She had seen something up in the sky. Following her gaze, Noah looked up again.
They all looked up. There was a golden shimmer, a light flowing down like sand from the heavens.
The light formed an arc, and then suddenly the arc was blazing with colour, red and yellow and green and purple, bands of brilliant colour, each laid above the other.
Noah gasped. What is it? He whispered.
Isla's eyes shone. Her face was radiant.
It is his blessing.
His blessing. The end. It's actually a rainbow, but these primitive people...
They got no idea.
Had no idea. It wasn't until many years later when a frog called Kermit made the rainbow connection.
Yeah, and he was like, refraction, that's what it is.
Yeah, which is a big part of the bridge of that song.
Yeah.
It explains how light works.
I can't remember in the book if they do it, but do they talk about after the ark stops and they get to the island?
Yes.
Because his family's not happy with him for a while.
Yeah.
And Noah's not happy with himself, and he becomes an alcoholic.
Yeah.
And then there's that great scene in the movie where Russell Crowe is butt naked, face down in the sand, and his sons come to find him.
I'm going to make a confession, Zach, because I feel like I've got to tell the truth here. When they landed on land, I'd had enough. And I just kind of really skimmed through that.
That's the best bit.
Last bit.
Because he becomes like a full-blown alcoholic. He lives in a cave away from his family. And then at some point he takes all his clothes off and they find him unconscious, face down in the sand.
There's all these holes in the sand everywhere.
Yeah.
Where he's given up and he's raping the world.
He's turned into Ray Winston.
Yeah. Wow. No, I missed all that.
It's pretty good. Just to see Russell Crowe
naked.
on the beach.
Yeah. Wow. So they weren't quite as happy as I thought they were. I thought they were just fine after that. I thought they had everything they wanted. They got the babies. Everything's happy. Got land.
He's like, yeah.
Where did he find the booze?
He made it.
Oh, well, it's a job. Somebody has to have that as a job. That's not a bad job.
Yeah, I'd do it.
That's the end. That's the book. That is the true story of Noah's Ark. It all happened a couple of thousand years ago. And yeah, I was a bit cynical about it at first, but now hearing that again and hearing our reading of it, it kind of all checks out. It makes sense. So
yeah, it's pretty factual.
I'm a believer. I got to ask you, Zach, because I always do this. You might not know this, but I always ask if the book was better. What do you think?
I don't know.
Tough decision, I know, but you got to choose one.
Because when I first saw the movie, I hated it with a passion.
Passion of the Christ.
Yeah. Then I read the book, and I was like, this book's not too bad.
Yeah.
Then I read some other stuff about the movie, and then I watched the movie again, and having a better understanding of the movie, I kind of really enjoyed it.
Okay.
But
well, I mean, it is Aronofsky. He's no slouch.
Yeah.
He's not Adam Sandler.
But I think the book was better.
Controversial, I'm going to say the book was better as well. And if only for that wonderful bit where Ham goes to find a woman and he looks at all his choices and one's a dead baby, one's missing an eye, one's missing a teeth, got a leg spread, and the other is a skinny toddler eating shit.
Yeah.
And he's like having to choose
I'm surprised this guy didn't win a Pulitzer for
a fiance. It's just so fantastic. And there's so many brutal, bloody bodies and crazy shit happening in it that, God, if you thought the Bible was boring, think again.
Yeah.
Because obviously it's incredibly exciting and moving. I had some Amazon reviews, Zach. Only a couple of little bits and pieces, but see what you think of this. The movie is not that great. It is alright. It is not biblical accurate. There are no night watchers in the original story of Noah, so that is why I give so low of a rating.
That's fair enough.
The night watchers.
They were
Yeah.
the watchers that were only at night.
Jon Snow. The movie and the book deserves an open mind and a willing heart to hear God's word in an artistic presentation for his glory.
Yeah,
You pay that one?
It's the exclamation mark at the end that worries me.
The book is a disaster. The book starts out like the movie The Incredible Truth by Al Gore of how we were to blame for the floods that happened over 5,000 years ago. The one part that is not in the Bible, that they make Isla a whore, come on, that is a big fat lie. Isla never had a child in the Bible, so that is a lie that Hollywood is selling with sex and Russell Crowe being drunk and beating up and desperate. The book never mentions the word God or Jesus Christ. Isla never had children in the Bible, so Hollywood is lying.
How dare they?
Hollywood.
Hollywood, you hurt my feelings.
I've heard a lot of things about Hollywood. Liars, though? I don't know
First I've heard of it.
what to believe anymore.
I saw it on a movie, so it's real. And I read it in a book.
I think this is one of those ones where we're pretty sure that it happened.
Yeah,
Because it's an old book that was made before the invention of lying.
exactly.
And then I went to Goodreads because Goodreads is a little bit more the Wild West than Amazon. Amazon's a little bit uptight, but Goodreads is pretty loose and just like anything goes over there. I understand this may or may not have been historically correct, but it was a great story. Don't know how I'd feel if I felt God had given me the task, but the storyteller gave you a clear understanding of how Noah could have reacted and pursued his faith. My favourite part there is, I understand that this may or may not have been historically correct, so not ruling it out.
Yeah.
Quite
Could have been
possible
real.
that all of this happened exactly as presented. I've got an open mind. And maybe that's it. Maybe that's what we've learnt today, is we all believe different things. As long as we don't hurt each other, that's fine. As long as our beliefs aren't detrimental to other people, that's fine. We can believe what we want to believe. Because, look, life is hard. So whatever helps you get through the day is fine. And have an open mind, because some of this stuff is very, very compelling.
Yeah. No, I think that is the important thing to take away. I mean, I know we kind of ripped on it a bit, but to be fair,
Yeah.
if that's what you're into, I'm not going to tell you you're wrong.
No, I
'Cause
agree.
I will make fun of you.
Because, like, Russell Crowe, I believe that he's naked and drunk.
Yeah, I believe that all the
So
time.
if that could happen, why couldn't some of the other things happen?
Yeah. I believe Emma Watson might have a child at some point.
I believe, that she's got a uterus.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I haven't seen it,
No.
but I have faith
I mean, I'd look at
that
it.
it's there. I'd give it a look, see? Like,
Just
she
like,
wanted a second opinion.
Quick look.
Just
I'm not
like
a
glance.
gynecologist.
No. That's the show. So look, thank you everybody for listening. If you got this far, that is absolutely wonderful. I'd love to hear your thoughts and feelings about Noah and the Ark. Please listen to the other shows. There is also FP Cast every Monday. That's a pop culture podcast with Jacinta and I reviewing films and stuff. And look, you can find out everything we're doing at fruitlesspursuits.com. There is a link to our Patreon if you're a very nice subscriber and super fan, and then we can get you some extra content as well. And also links to our Facebook page and our discussion group. And we would certainly love to hear from you and hear about all the batshit insane things that you believe. And Zach, thank you so much, man.
Thank you.
Always quite tricky coming in on the first one. There are people that were always like a little bit wary about it, and to have suffered a head injury as well, and then still come on all guns blazing, I think is just a remarkable effort.
I did try. Paris wouldn't let me.
Wouldn't let you bail out.
She was like, if you need to go to the hospital, we'll go afterwards.
Okay, so
It's fine.
so you might still be looking at the hospital. You didn't need it like stitched or anything, did you? There's no blood
No.
dripping down your face, so that's something.
No, my hair's pretty like it's pretty much
It's
a giant mop at the moment.
you didn't hit it on like a. If you'd hit it on a lightsaber or something, it would have cauterized
Yeah.
the wound.
Sadly not though.
But there wasn't any.
No, just a big piece of metal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a problem. Well, look, thanks.
That's cool, man.
All right. Anything you want to say, push, plug?
No?
No?
Do I say the thing?
Yeah, you can say the thing, absolutely.
Cool. Catch you on the flips.
Jesus mind you.